Hello and welcome to Sport for Business. I'm joined today by Paul Flynn. He's the CEO of the Gaelic Players Association, which in the past 24 hours has announced the coming together of itself with the Women's Gaelic Players Association. You're very welcome to Sport for Business, Paul.
Thanks very much, Rob. Thanks for having me.
This has been working away in the background, but it's come together quite quickly in the end, so that both organisations voted overwhelmingly at their EGMs, and it's already a working group in charge of it towards the middle of next year that it will be one organisation.
This has been one of the key objectives, nearly since day one. There have been a couple of key objectives. The other being, securing a deal with the GAA, I suppose it's taken. It probably feels like it's come around quite quickly, but it's been a work in progress, formally since March 2019. And we had to go through all the different steps in relation to taking a proposal to our board and our NEC. Following that, we had a workshop at our AGM in 2019, where we also had a motion on the floor at that AGM to formalise the relationship. So from that point, we then worked with the WGPA and drafted up a framework and an MOU between both associations. And we set up an implementation committee then, chaired by John Glennon, who's an independent director on the GPA. And that was the process that brought us to the changes in constitution that we brought to our respective EGMs as of Monday evening. So yeah, it's been a lengthy enough process, and brilliant dialogue along the way with players, with members, and led by our national executive committees and boards to get us to this, what I feel is a significant and historic moment in both of our associations' progression.
I think it is. It's also, it could be seen as being a natural coming together in terms of representing the interests of players regardless of gender. You've been working quite closely together on a number of different programs, the Madden Leadership Programme, one that leaps out, and on a lot of the scholarships and things like that. What's the difference going to be now in terms of the day-to-day operation between the two organisations?
Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good question, Rob. I suppose philosophically, we've done this 18 months ago. Operationally, we've been working on it throughout that 18 months, and that's alluding to exactly what you said in relation to joint programs, joint social initiatives. We both have the same three pillars of player representation, player welfare, and player development. So it's a natural fit, like you said. And now this is really the third step in it, which is the structural piece to it and the changes to constitutions that are required to formalise the relationship. So I guess what we've been saying is that this is the start now of a new journey. It's by no means the final destination. There's standards that need to be raised across both of our respective members. And, that's the exciting part. There's challenges that lay ahead, but I think as one players association, we're stronger.
And there's a real sense of equality about it as well. This isn't a takeover or a bringing in of a smaller organisation by a bigger organisation. You're already aiming at having a national executive committee which will be representative of the number of members, but also the board on the company behind it as looking towards a 50-50 gender split as well. Is that really important, that this is very much seen as a coming together of equals?
Yeah, I think that that to me is the most significant step, really, because our National Executive Committee and our board are ultimately what define the strategy, and our board are there to make sure that we execute our strategy. And when we have a National Executive Committee that is going to be representative, and it's pretty much 50-50, but it's representative of our members, which is a 60-40 male to female. But our board will be 50-50 gender split, which I feel is a significant step. We'll have 7 members of the board, which will be directly from the National Executive Committee, and 5 independent directors. It'll be chaired by Professor Brian McCrath, the previous president of DCU and the current chair of the GPA. So he will lead that piece of work to identify the new independent board members, which is an exciting piece of work in itself. So like the initial stages of it, not to, I suppose, complicate it, but there is a transitional period of 6 months whereby we take the NECs that we currently have and we make one big NEC, but they're tasked with defining what the smaller and the more permanent NEC and board, well, NEC will look like. And Brian will be tasked from day one to define what the board looks like. So that to me is the most significant part of this. The changes to our objects, well, our objects within our constitution remain the same, but one of the changes is, to promote. I'm going to read this one out, but it's to promote gender equality in sport and work towards equal investment and opportunity across Gaelic games, and that's a signal of intent. And this, as I said to you, is the start of that journey.
It's probably not fully appropriate for us as two fellas to be talking about the way that this might impact on the wider picture of ladies football and the Camogie Association and the GAA. There have been very positive moves in terms of a closer working relationship between those two. I think this will help that conversation to develop. Is it something that the new GPA will actually have on its agenda to press for?
I think today is a significant step for us because we've done what's within our control. It has taken us a bit of time to get to this point. So I appreciate that it takes a bit of time for the respective NGBs to do the same. But as I say, we've done what's within our control now, and we're one joint players association. There are matters outside of our control which make our role a little bit more difficult, whereby we've male members who we represent to the GAA, and now we've got female members who are represented to both Camogie and to ladies football. So that's the piece of work for people outside of our remit, but what we have done is a significant step, and I think it's a signal of intent for the players. They've spoken on their feet that this is the way they want their association to be set up, and I think that it's a very significant step.
It was probably a high tackle of a question, but you've answered it very well and very politically. It is very much a positive step forward into the future. So congratulations to you and to the teams of people behind the scenes in both the GPA and the WGPA. Very much looking forward to seeing how this develops in 2021. But for the moment, Paul Flynn of the Gaelic Players Association, thank you very much for joining us.